18.59. Yadhankaram ashritya nayotya iti manyase mityaisha vyavasayaste prakritistvam niyokshati. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. Actually, this is very interesting. This being falsely directed. So many times we become falsely directed. Why? Because we do not completely follow the instructions of Krishna or Guru or Acharyas. So we become falsely directed. But because we will not have full understanding, we will think that I am going in the right direction. So it is very important to know. Once Guru Maharaj Bhakti Vikas Maharaj gave a class saying that if you are following your mind, then he said you are going in the wrong direction. It should be Guru Sadhu Shastra. Clearly, and that also it takes us time for us to understand completely, the instructions. And so till then we should be careful. Otherwise we'll be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, so Krishna is saying, Baba, anyway your nature is to fight. If you now run away from the battlefield also, eventually you will end up fighting. Because that is your nature. So just do it based on my direction. That's better. Arjuna was a military man and born of the nature of Kshatriya. Therefore, his natural duty was to fight. But due to false ego, he was fearing that by killing his teacher, grandfather, he would incur reactions. Actually, he was not considering himself. He was considering himself master of actions, as if he were directing the good and bad results of such work. This is how we also think. We think that we consider ourselves master of our actions. Actually, in prayers of instructions by Kapila Muni to Devahuti, there's a beautiful statement that because the Atma is in this wrong conception that it is the body, or it is attachment to the body, because of the misconception, we are stuck here. Misconception, which means that we have to realize that actually I have, as an Atma, I have no way to do anything. I cannot act. I can only desire. So whatever is happening is in the material platform, whatever is happening is being done by Prakriti. So we are not the master of our actions. Actually, Prakriti is the master of our actions. Because we have given the reins to Prakriti based on how we have lived our previous lives. Now we are slowly trying to use our free will in the right direction. But whatever was done, whatever prarabdha karma is there, that will come and it will hit us. So whatever we are doing today is simply being done by Prakriti. The only thing that we are doing with our free will is to engage in service of Krishna. So this thinking that we are master of our actions, and this is another misconception. Now we think, and then we decide to do something, and then we think, oh, okay, I am responsible for this action. First of all, the thinking itself is not me. The thinking itself is my material subtle body, which is influenced by previous karma, previous vasanas. It's not the action of the soul. So it's ignorance to think that I am the doer. And in one of the lectures, Maharaj actually said, somebody was asking, I have a lot of some, bad habits, pornography and all that. How do I get over? First, Maharaj gave a lot of practical instructions. Then finally he said, just engage as much as possible in the service of Krishna. Develop positive. Don't think so much about your negative, because actually this negative is not us. The negative is actually our conditioning. So we shouldn't bother too much about it, but at the same time, we should not let it, come and create problems again and again. But the only solution really is to focus more on, surrendering to Krishna and Guru. Forgot that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present there, instructing him to fight. That is a forgetfulness of the condition. This we also forget. We forget that, we have a Guru, we have spiritual guides, mentors, and we have to follow their instructions. We simply think we are independent. The moment we think we are independent, we are gone, right? That is forgetfulness of the conditioned soul. So that is why it is also very important. Everybody needs to have a spiritual guide who can guide them when they're, because many a times we end up in, our own interpretation of what we have heard than as it is. We will not hear and accept as it is. We hear and we create some other version, which is our own version. So somebody else needs to be there to say, no, this is right, wrong. But if we don't have anybody to guide us, then we are in trouble. Every devotee needs to have. Every devotee needs to have this. So that they can be doubly sure. Guru Sadhu. So we need Sadhu's association. So that we know that whatever we are doing is approved. Supreme Personality gives directions as to what is good and what is bad, and one simply has to act in Krishna consciousness to attain perfection of life. One can ascertain his destiny as the Supreme Lord can. We can't ascertain our destiny. Supreme Lord knows exactly what is going on, why, what. Therefore, the best course is to take direction from Supreme Lord and act. And when Supreme Lord, when we are surrendered to Supreme Lord, there's something happening in our life, then we also we need to understand that Supreme Lord can ascertain, knows our destiny. So we don't have to worry about it. No one should neglect the order of the Supreme Person of Godhead or the order of the spiritual master, who is the representative of God. One should act unhesitatingly to execute the order of the Supreme Person of Godhead. That will keep one safe under all. Beautiful. Actually, these last few verses, purports are like just out of the world. Amazing it is. स्वभावज्ञेन कौन्तेय निबद्ध स्वेन कर्मणा कर्तुं नेच्छसि यन्मोहात् करिष्यसि अवशोऽपि तत्. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your nature, you will act all the same. Again, Krishna is saying the same thing. If one refuses to act under the direction of Supreme Lord, then he is compelled to act by the modes. Everyone is under the spell of particular combination of modes and is acting in that way. But anyone who voluntarily engages himself under the direction of the Supreme Lord becomes glorious. So this is what we are all trying to do. Ishvara sarvabhutanam deshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrarudani mayaya. Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. Now Krishna is talking about Paramatma because you have to get guidance. Now who is giving us guidance? Chaitya Guru from inside is Paramatma. So Krishna is now introducing, not introducing, he already talked about Paramatma. Now he is saying, now you have to, in the material world, you have to surrender to Paramatma. This is, but for those who are engaged in Bhakti Yoga, we surrender directly to Krishna. We don't necessarily have to surrender to Paramatma. Now, why is Paramatma so important? We will understand. Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So we are seated as we have seated on a machine. My body is a machine made of material energy. So we are seated like, so this body has to be treated just like a machine. And Paramatma is directing the wanderings of all living entities. Directing based on what? Based on previous karma. So actually we don't know what we wanted, what we tried to do in our last lives. But Paramatma knows. So he is directing our wanderings. Okay, take left, take right, do this, do that. That intelligence, where is this intelligence coming from? Intelligence is coming, actually, source of intelligence is Atma, subtle body, and then Paramatma, right? As in, the intelligence is subtle, but the intelligence is affected by mind, on our knowledge that we have acquired, all these. But the direction is being given by the Paramatma. Because intelligence, that even if it has to know what to do, what not to do, or we don't even know what we desired in our last life, that connection is created only by Paramatma. Only when Paramatma says, okay, you are looking to become a cricketer, then intelligence can start working. Otherwise, Sachin Tendulkar never knew that he wanted to become a cricketer in his last life. So that Paramatma is the connection. Arjuna was not the superknower, and his decision to fight or not to fight was confined to his limited discretion. Lord Krishna instructed that the individual soul is not all in all. Supreme Personality of Godhead, or He Himself, Krishna, as a localized super soul, sits in the heart, directing the living being. After changing bodies, the living being forgets his past, but the super soul, as a knower, remains the witness of all his activities. Therefore, all activities of living entities are directed by the super soul. The living entity gets what it deserves and is carried by the material body. It is created in a material energy under the direction of the super soul. As soon as a living entity is placed in a particular type of body, he has to work under the spell of that bodily situation. Like a dog has to bark. Dog cannot mew or cannot speak like a human because it's in that body which can only bark. A person seated in a high-speed motor car goes faster than one seated in a slower car. Though the living entities, the drivers, may be the same. Similarly, by the art of the Supreme Soul, material nature fashions a particular type of body to a particular type of living entity so that he may work according to his past desires. See, actually, this is so beautiful. Why we think that our body is us? Because our body is exactly the way we wanted it in our previous lives. So it almost looks like, okay, this is me because this thinks and acts exactly like I want. But that is just because we wanted it that way and material nature has given us such a body. But realizing that, okay, even though this is exactly me, it is exactly like me, but it is not me. Me is the Atma. So even separating out the mind from Atma is so difficult. Because thinking, we think, okay, Atma is thinking. You know what? Atma doesn't think. Atma cannot think. It's all the material. Everything is material. Whatever we are experiencing except bhakti is all material. Bhakti also what is being experienced through the material senses only. But the happiness is being enjoyed by the Atma, which is spiritual. This is a very important concept. Actually, it takes a long time for us to understand. Everything literally that is happening around me except activities of bhakti is all material. It's all being done by Prakriti. So living entity is not independent. One should not think himself independent of the Supreme God, Lord. Individual is always under the Lord's control. Therefore, one's duty is to surrender. That is the injection in the next verse. So we have to surrender to Paramatma here. Tameva Sharanam.
Question. You said that except bhakti, everything else is material. So basically, the desire to do bhakti is the real nature of the soul, right? Otherwise,
Correct.
it is driven by the material modes. What about the aversion? So let's say if one is averse to bhakti, that decision is also material. It is not that individual soul wants to.
Because individual soul cannot become averse to bhakti because individual soul is nature is to do bhakti. That is the nature of the soul, no? Because we are Nitya Krishna Das. So Atma by itself cannot say that I don't want to do service. That is contamination. That is consciousness getting contaminated. By consciousness getting contaminated by something which is contaminating, which is not spiritual.
And that contamination.
Of course, this free will, see, okay, one more thing, this misuse of free will. This misuse of free will, actually the driver is something from outside, something is driving, but then we misuse our free will and say that we don't want to engage in service, but that is misuse, as in it's not the real nature of the soul. It's a misuse of the free will of the soul, which we decide, after which we decide saying that, okay, I don't want to serve Krishna. Because, when we fall from the spiritual world, what happens actually? We just developed, just misused our free will, saying that I don't want to serve Krishna. Now, why did this happen? Because we have free will. How did it happen? Prabhupada said, don't think about this, but it happened. Right? So the point there is nothing material in the spiritual world, but there is some kind of contamination which affected our consciousness, and Prabhupada says that is because of the free will. So now this free will is what? Free will now seems to be like an characteristic of Atma. So that way we can say that the misuse of the free will is a characteristic of the Atma. Right, but I think it's a slightly deep topic. I am not thought about it much.
So can we say that this free will is like a protecting lever, which if someone applies, then it takes that person to the right direction. But if it is not used, then basically you keep on going in the whirlpool of 84 lakh species and whatnot, right? Is that right understanding?
Okay, see, which is what I was trying to say. So, what is this free will? Is a little bit independence that is there with the jiva, right? A very little bit independence. Why that independence is there? Because the jiva is part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is Swarat. He has full independence. So jiva, because he is a small spark, he also has a very little amount of independence. So that seems, so I'm answering my own confusion. So that independence is an intrinsic aspect of the jiva. Okay. Now, when the jiva misuses independence, that can be because of multiple reasons. The proper use of independence is what will liberate us or take us back to our original position. The improper use of independence will bind us. Right now, how do we know what is proper, improper? After we come to Shastra, after we hear Guru Sadhu Shastra, then we know that, okay, I should not wrongly use my independence. So which means that now I have 10 minutes time. What should I do, material or spiritual? It's the use of our free will. So then we can say either, no, I want to just relax. I want to hear some music in the song. That is misuse of independence. No, I want to hear kirtan. Proper use of independence. Right? But now, so in this example, whether I want to hear Hindi song or I want to hear bhajan or kirtan, that independence is being triggered by what? By our desires.
Yeah.
Because desire, if the desire is to have material things, then we'll say, okay, I want to hear Hindi music. The desire to attain Krishna, then we will say, I want to, then I will use my free will properly. Right? So the crux seems to be desire again. Right? So there in the spiritual world, when we are there, the desire was to enjoy independent of Krishna. So we misused free will. We come here stuck. Now we want to go back to Krishna. So we are making proper use of free will.
Yeah, so initially it might be a scenario that desire might be there to do bhakti, but due to conditioning, we end up getting, listening to Hindi song, for example. So
no, but that is not evident actually. See, when you are talking about in a conditioned state, that propensity to do bhakti is inside. Actually, we don't even know that it exists. Only when we remove the outside covering kachada, then we understand saying that, oh, by the way, I like to do bhakti. Right? So till we are exposed to bhakti or we actually have that sukruti to come to bhakti, even though it is there in the jiva as part of the jiva's intrinsic nature, the conditioning is so strong that we actually don't realize it. We don't think about it saying that I might have a propensity to do bhakti because I don't even know. So that ignorance is so strong, it's like thick covering of dust, right? So that we even have, whether we have even propensity to do bhakti or not to do bhakti is also not known.
Yeah, but that is a state when person doesn't come into bhakti. So
Correct.
there is also a stage where person comes to bhakti, but still at a neophyte stage, right?
Correct.
So I'm actually asking about that stage. So
Okay.
what is the state during that time? So
There's
that
just ignorance. It's still the contamination is still there. So till contamination clears, it's as good as person who is not come into bhakti, neophyte state.
Okay.
It's just strong ignorance, that's all. So it has to keep getting cleared. So that is why we ask people chant, read, associate with devotees, take prasadam. So we start getting purified. As we slowly start getting purified, the covering keeps reducing. Then we start making proper use of our friend more till we become a pure devotee.
Yeah.
Okay. 13.62. तम्मेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम्. O son of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. And this utterly means what? Utterly, butterly, delicious. Completely. Right? Completely surrender unto him. Meaning don't retain any amount of free will. Just follow whatever he's saying. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and supreme and eternal abode. Now, but we can't speculate what he wants from us. That is going to come through the Guru. A living entity should therefore surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is situated in everyone's heart, and that will relieve him from all kinds of miseries of this material existence. Even today, we are speculating, we are contaminated, we are using contaminated consciousness to make decisions. So we are struggling still until we come to the stage of complete surrender. Now, what does complete surrender mean? Complete surrender means Guru Sadhu Shastra. No, complete surrender doesn't mean just ignore material things. That is not surrender. Because we are in the material world. If I completely ignore eating food, then I will die. Then what is the question of doing bhakti? Right? So we should be able to deal with ourselves and our world around us in connection with Krishna. So that is surrender means actually being able to do that for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. Right? So surrender means just understanding properly the instructions of Guru Sadhu Shastra and following them. Like Hanuman burnt Lanka. What kind of a sadhutva is that? Because that was required by Rama. So he knew, he understood what Lord wanted. So he did that. That is surrender. By such surrender, not only will one be released from all miseries in this life, but at the end he will reach the Supreme God. So see, look at this. How will one be relieved from all miseries in this life by surrender? Because we stop thinking independently. It's not that we should not have discrimination. Thinking, taking decisions independently versus thinking, taking decisions based on Guru Sadhu Shastra, that is the difference. So when we surrender, we take decisions based on Guru Sadhu Shastra, then we are released from all miseries because this is complete surrender, and Krishna will anyway say, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vrata, Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami. So Krishna will anyway take away all the miseries as well. And also by our actions, we stop creating more miseries for ourselves. And so complete surrender to Guru Sadhu Shastra, understanding what Prabhupada has written in his books. That is why again I am coming back to the same point about having somebody to guide us. So that will also release us from all miseries in this life. Actually, somebody can experience this. The transcendental world is described in the Vedic literature, Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam, since all of creation is kingdom of God. Everything material is actually spiritual. Everything material is actually spiritual. But Parampadam specially refers to the eternal abode, which is Vaikuntha. The 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Sarvasya Hradi Sannivishtaha, Lord is seated in everyone's heart. So this recommendation that one should surrender unto the super soul sitting within means that one should surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. So Prabhupada is making it very clear for us. See, actually Prabhupada's purpose is written for devotees. Because when we read these verses and we read the literally what the verse is saying, surrender to Supreme Super Soul, then devotees will start thinking, okay, now what should I do? I've surrendered to Krishna. Prabhupada clarifies, surrender to Super Soul means surrender to Krishna. Has already been accepted by Arjuna as Supreme. He was accepted in the 10th canto as Param Brahma Parandama. Arjuna has accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Supreme Abode of all living entities, not only because of his personal experience, because of evidence of great authorities. So when we are reading Prabhupada's purports, we should always read, there are two aspects to reading Prabhupada's purport. One is the actual verse translation, right? And we might, when we just read the translation, we might understand it in one way. But when we read the purport, we actually understand it in the way a devotee needs to understand. That is why Prabhupada's purports are so important, because without understanding Prabhupada's purports, we can't actually understand the application of that verse in our life. So properly reading Prabhupada's purports is very, very important for a clear understanding of what or how we should apply this verse in our life. Iti te gnanamakyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimrishyaitat asheshena yatechasi tata kuru. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. And this is true for all of us. We can hear all this, we can have guides, we can do all that, but we can decide to do what we wish to do. Lord has already explained to Arjuna, knowledge of Brahmabhuta. One who is in Brahmabhuta is joyful, he never laments, nor does he desire anything. This is due to confidential knowledge. Confidential knowledge that I am not the body, I am spirit soul. It also discloses knowledge of the super soul. It is also Brahman knowledge of Brahman, but it is superior knowledge. That is why here he is saying more confidential. Here the words yatechasi tata kuru, as you like you may act, indicate that God does not interfere with the little independence. The living entity. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord has explained in all respects how one can elevate his living condition, and not materially, spiritually. Best advice imparted to Arjuna is to surrender unto the super soul. Right? Discrimination, like I said, we don't give up discrimination when we come to spiritual life. Somebody said, I surrender my intelligence to Guru. No, we don't surrender our intelligence to Guru. We surrender our intelligence to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Because it's not only Guru, so we need to have the right discrimination. Because sometimes Guru might go in the wrong direction. That's why Narottam Das Thakur says Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. One should agree to act according to the order of the super soul. That will help one become situated constantly in Krishna consciousness. Arjuna is being directly ordered by a personality of Godhead to fight. Surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in the best interest of the living entities. It is not for the interest of the Supreme. This is very nice. Prabhupada saying that we acting according to what Supreme Lord wants is not in his interest. It is in our interest. Meaning it is not required for him. It is required for us so that we go in the right direction. We get his eternal service. Before surrendering, one is free to deliberate on this subject as far as intelligence goes. Like when we say before surrendering to Guru, please deliberate on this subject as far as intelligence goes. Don't simply accept whimsically or just because somebody else is saying. That is the best way to accept the instructions of Godhead. That instruction comes also through the spiritual master. Sarvaguhyatamam bhuya shrunume paramam vachaha ishtosi me dridam iti tato vakshami te hitam. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear from it is for your benefit. Lord has given Arjuna knowledge that is confidential, that is knowledge of Brahman, still more confidential, which is knowledge of Super Soul. Now he is giving the most confidential. Just surrender unto Supreme God. At the end of the 9th chapter, he said, Man mana, just always think of me. The same instruction is repeated here to stress the essence of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. This essence is not understood by a common man, but by one who is actually very dear to Krishna, pure devotee of Krishna. This is the most important instruction. All Vedic literature, what Krishna is saying in this connection, the most essential part of knowledge, and it should be carried out not only by Arjuna, but by all living entities. Anmana bhavamat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mami vaishyasi satyam te pratijani priyosi me. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official mediator. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. So this molding the life is very, very important. This is a conscious effort. It's a conscious effort to change our life such that we can always think about Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. Again, this is an effort. It will not be that it will suddenly, suddenly it will happen from outside. No, we have to put the effort. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours, he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend. Because when we read this, it's, oh, how can I become a dear friend? Prabhupada is clarifying. You follow Arjuna's path, you can become dear to Krishna. So what was Arjuna's path? He just accepted whatever Krishna said. Karishya vachanam tava. If we simply accept the instructions of, in Bhagavad Gita, instructions of Guru Sadhu Shastra, then we become dear to Krishna. These words test that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna. The very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on his original form of God at Krishna. One should not even divert his attention to the other forms of the Lord, Vishnu, Narayana, Rama, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge. It is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna. So, mana, mad bhakto, mat, matyaji, mam. So this is Krishna. Prabhupada is clearly saying we should not even get attracted by anything, any other form. And finally, Sarva Dharman Parititya Mamekam Chanamradam Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayami Masutaha. Abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender unto me, I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Lord has described various kinds of knowledge and process of religion, knowledge of Supreme Brahman, Super Soul, knowledge of different types of orders, Varnashrama, knowledge of sannyas, knowledge of vairagya, sense mind control, meditation. He has talked about so many things. He is described in so many different ways, different types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect. So actually in this, even all kinds of dharma, actually we should, Varnashrama dharma has to be given up. Varnashrama dharma means Grihastha dharma also has to be given up. So that is why we don't really look at husband and a wife relationship as Grihastha dharma. In the sense we look at each other as devotees and who are together, taking care of this temple of the Lord. But actually Varnashrama dharma is also has to be rejected. Everything has to be rejected. It's only Krishna Bhakti. And then there will be chaos in the society. So we look at each other and say, okay, husband and wife, we are devotees and we are come together by divine arrangement to serve him. Otherwise, literally everything needs to be given up. Society dharma, nation dharma, pretty much all relations dharma, everything needs to be given up. Finally, it all has to be only Bhagavan and Bhakti and Bhaktas. So even marital relations, everything has to be Bhagavan, Bhakti, Bhakta. The 7th chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take the worship of the Lord Krishna. Thus one may think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering process. Such doubts, it is here said that even if one is not free from sinful reactions, simply by the process surrendering to Sri Krishna is automatically freed. So this is so beautiful. Now, only one who is freed from all sinful reactions can engage in bhakti. But we are not free from all sinful reactions. How do we do bhakti? Just surrender. Just beginning the process of surrender, we become freed. Simply by the process, meaning just trying to attempt to implement this in our life, we become freed. So there's no need of strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. Prabhupada is saying. So amazing this is. So we don't have to really put effort to get over sinful reactions. Just because we are trying to surrender to Krishna, that itself will free us from all sinful reactions. So the key is one should unhesitatingly accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all living entities, and we should surrender to him with love, faith, and love. One should surrender to him. If we don't surrender, then we don't have any hope, because we have so many sinful reactions which will prevent us from coming to the platform of bhakti. So unless we surrender, and this is something that today in ISKCON we don't talk about surrender. We talk about, service, this, that, and all that, but we don't talk about surrender. Surrender is a very heavy word. Surrender means literally giving up our independence. So this process of surrender, as in Hari Bhakti Vilas, this has to be absolutely followed by every devotee. Anukulisa sankalpa, pratikulisa vardhanam, rakshishati vishwaso, gupta vivarnam tata, atmanikshepa karpunyo, shadvida shanagati. According to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to devotional service. Anukulisa sankalpa. One may perform a particular occupation and duty according to his position in social order. But if by executing his duty one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Pratikulisa varjanam. Anything does not lead to the perfectional state should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances Krishna will protect him. Rakshishati vishwaso. There is no need of thinking how one should keep the body and soul together. Krishna will see to that. You look at this, so beautiful. But even as devotees, we are so worried about taking care of our family, about responsibilities and all that. And we become completely involved in that. Prabhupada is saying, Krishna will see to that. One should always think himself helpless and should consider Krishna the only basis for progress in life. Super powerful statement. As soon as one seriously engages himself in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, at once he becomes freed from all contamination. So the key is serious bhakti. Then we become free from all contamination. Because serious bhakti is so powerful that it will destroy all contamination. There are different processes of religion and purificatory process, cultivation of knowledge, meditation, mystic yoga, etc. But one who surrenders unto Krishna does not have to execute so many methods. That simple surrender will save him from unnecessary wasting time. One can thus make all progress at once and be free from all sinful reactions. So simply surrender to Krishna. Now Prabhupada is saying, okay, surrender. Why will you surrender to Krishna? One should be attracted by the beautiful vision of Krishna. His name is Krishna because he's all attractive. One who becomes attracted by the beautiful, all-powerful, omnipotent vision of Krishna is fortunate. There are different kinds of transcendentalists. Some are attached to impersonal, some are attracted to super soul. But one who is attracted to personal feature, and above all, one who is attracted by Krishna is the most perfect transcendentalist. The word devotional service to Krishna in full consciousness is the most confidential part of knowledge, and that is the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Karma yogis, jnanis, Ashtanga yogis, and devotees are all transcendentalists, but one who is a pure devotee is the best of all. The particular words used here, Masucha, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry. Don't hesitate, just surrender now. One may be perplexed as to how one can give up all kinds of religious forms and simply surrender to it. Useless. Powerful purport. So we should understand that unless we surrender, we cannot overcome our sinful reactions. We cannot actually get Shuddha Bhakti. Without surrender means without following these 6 aspects, we cannot come to the platform of pure devotion. And Prabhupada is saying, what is your motive? What is your drive? What will drive you to surrender is the beautiful form of Krishna. Madhuram, Madhuradhipater Akhilam Madhuram. So this beautiful form of Krishna, Leela Madhurya, Bhakta Madhurya, Venu Madhurya, Rupa Madhurya. So this Madhurya is what has to attract us. And when we become attracted, that is why we say we have to hear about Krishna. We have to hear about Krishna in the association of devotees. If we simply read by ourselves, we will just read and finish it off. 100 times we would have read description of Vishnu in Bhagavatam. How many times have we been attracted by the description? That attraction will happen only when we are hearing in the association of other devotees who have that attraction. Then when they read those verses, they will get so absorbed in that. Then we will be thinking, "Arey, I've read this 100 times. I never thought about it or got attracted to it like this." Then we will get impacted. So always we have to read Shastra in the association of devotees and in the association of advanced devotees. Devotees who have made more progress than us. That is the only way we can become closer to Krishna. And we do that. I mean, all of us, we do that. We engage in hearing with devotees who are with whose association we can go to the next level of bhakti. So we have to get attracted towards Krishna, and only then we will surrender. Then we will not bother about all this. Yeah, all where it is religion, take it. I don't care. I just want Krishna. Deliver sinful reactions. Okay, Krishna, it's up to you. You want to deliver or you don't want to deliver? Up to you. I just want to surrender you unto you. I just want your bhakti. When we come to that stage, then we'll become indifferent to everything else. But yeah, we should be careful. Indifferent doesn't mean that we give up our responsibilities. Independent doesn't give up. Independent doesn't mean that suddenly we become like some outcast in the society. As in, we don't have to be accepted by others, but we want to be accepted by devotees. We live in a way that is required, acceptable by devotees. Whenever we talk about bhakti, we should remember Bhagavan, Bhakta, Bhakti. There are three things. It's not just Bhagavan, Bhagavan, Bhagavan. That is neophyte stage. Okay. Okay, I think, okay, maybe this we can finish. Idam te na tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na shushave vacham na chammamyo bhyasuyati. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere, not devoted, not engaged in devotional service, not to one who is envious of me. Persons who have not undergone the austerities, never attempted devotional service, not intended to a pure devotee, especially those who are conscious of Krishna only as a historical personality. That means that they envy Krishna should not be told this most confidential part of knowledge. Doesn't mean that they should not be told Bhagavad Gita at all. We should speak Bhagavad Gita and bring them to this most confidential knowledge by which they would have become austere, they would have become devoted, they would have engaged in devotional service. So then they will hear and they will not be envious of Krishna. And that is why randomly selecting verses and speaking also is not acceptable. It is, however, sometimes found that even demoniac persons who are envious of Krishna, worshipping Krishna in a different way, take to the procession of explaining Bhagavad Gita. Okay, but anyone who desires actually to understand Krishna must avoid such commentaries. Actually, the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is not understandable to those who are sensuous. Even if one is not sensuous but is strictly following disciplines enjoined in the Vedic scripture, if he is not a devotee, he cannot understand Krishna. When one poses himself as a devotee but is not engaged in bhakti, he also cannot understand Krishna. There are many persons who envy Krishna because he has explained Bhagavad Gita. He is explained in Bhagavad Gita that he is the supreme, and that nothing is above him or equal to him. And there are persons who are envious. Such person should not be told of Bhagavad Gita, for they cannot understand. There's no possibility of faithless persons understanding Bhagavad Gita. So this is very important actually. Some people envy Krishna to such an extent that they cannot stand Krishna saying, Manmana, I told, I am this, I am that. They say, why he has so much of ego? So they'll offend Krishna and go to hell. So we should not engage such people. Those who are extremely envious of Krishna, we should not engage. This is mostly Mayavadis. They are extremely envious of Krishna. They'll offend Krishna. So we don't talk to such people. I have a relative who's like this. Initially, I tried once or twice. Then he started offending Krishna. I thought, no, it's better not to just discuss with him at all. So I just stopped. And the other categories are still okay. Not austere, not devoted, not engaged, still okay. One who's envious, very dangerous. Okay, last verse for today. Ya idam paramam guhyam madbhakteshva vidhasyati bhaktim mai param krutva mame vaishyati asamshayah. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. So please make it a habit. Please take this opportunity to discuss Bhagavad Gita with other devotees. It is advised that Bhagavad Gita must be discussed among devotees only. For those who are not devotees will understand neither Krishna nor Bhagavad Gita. Those who do not accept Krishna as he is and Bhagavad Gita as it is should not try to explain Bhagavad Gita whimsically. Bhagavad Gita should be explained to persons who are ready to accept Krishna as Supreme Person of Godhead. It is a subject matter for devotees only and not for philosophical speculators. Anyone, however, who tries to sincerely present Bhagavad Gita as it is will advance in devotional activities and reach the pure devotional state of life. As a result of such pure devotion, he is sure to go back home. So I've experienced this in my life. When I started preaching seriously, I made tremendous progress. Whatever progress I made progress because of preaching. So if you want to really make progress, you have to seriously take up preaching. And it's not just for Prabhus, for Matajis as well. Matajis can preach to other Matajis. You have to preach. Preach to your family, your children, your sister, brother, parents, uncle, aunt, whatever, friends, acquaintances, whatever. We have to preach. If you don't preach, then we will not be able to make progress. This is beautiful. Nacha tasman manusheshu kaschin me priyakritamaha bhavita nacha me tasmad anya priyataro bhavi. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he who is giving the secret of Bhagavad Gita to others, nor will there ever be one more dear. Actually, I think we'll finish it today. Deshate cha ya imam dharmyam samvadamavayoho dana yagnena tenaham ishtasyam iti me mati. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of ours worships me by intelligence. Mataji, 1 second. तद्वाननसूयश्च शृणुयादपि यो नरः सोऽपि मुक्तः शुभालोकान् प्राप्नुयात् पुण्यकर्मणाम्. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions and attains. Okay, this is long purport. Okay, we'll do this on Friday. So last 8 verses we'll finish on Friday. Okay, I'll stop here. Yeah, you had a question?
And then it's Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
And Mataji, Hare.
Now, when we want to preach to others, does it mean like we have to take in the form of classes only, or we can preach it individual?
However you want to do. Preaching doesn't have any format. Basically, the idea is whatever works. If we have 1 or 2 devotees, we can just speak to them about topics from Bhagavad Gita, etc. If there are like 7, 8, and it depends on our ability also. Sometimes we can use, for example, we have some Bhakti Vriksha material if somebody wants to use. Mostly I preach from Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam directly. So it depends on individual's preference. The idea is we have to give authentic information. Whatever format we are using is up to us, and there's no hard and fast rule that it has to be like this or like that.
Okay. And if we are not confident in preaching because we are still not clear on certain topics, like we are capable of preaching others, then how do we go forward to preach?
Get clarity and then preach. Preach on topics that you are clear about. And how do we develop clarity? Because by reading Prabhupada's purpose and we meditate when, okay, I have to preach about this, what should I say? That is why I say then you have to have somebody, then you say, okay, I'm preparing for this class. I used to do that first. Initial days, I was asked to give class. I used to prepare for 3-4 hours for a 1 hour, 45 minutes lecture and make serious notes. And then I used to discuss with other senior devotees saying that, Prabhu, this is the verse, these are the points I'm discussing. Is this correct? Is this not correct? Am I saying something wrong? I used to show them the notes, discuss with them, get their feedback, correct it, and then go. So it's an effort. Preaching is effort. Preaching is not like, Chuma, we just read and then we suddenly off the cuff we give something. No, it requires preparation. And when we prepare properly, then we will not, we will develop confidence also, we'll develop understanding. Because when we have to preach to somebody, we also have to realize the topic. So Krishna will give us the realization. And then we will not be doing any mistakes.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. If there's nothing else, then we will meet Friday. Krishna willing, we'll finish Bhagavad Gita. And like I said, we'll start with Bhagavatam. I'm maybe rushing a little bit these few verses. But I think important topics I've covered. But maybe you might feel that I'm rushing a bit, but it's okay. I have some timeline. I need to finish this because from next week there's something else which has been lined up. So I need to finish this before this weekend. But anyway, I request all of you to read these verses, last few verses. And because up to almost, discussion of modes, it was pretty clear. I think there's not much. The last, from verse 50 to 70, basically, these 20 verses, kindly read once more. And if you think you didn't understand something, then you can post on the group and we can discuss. But today's verses were even more important. Last Monday's verses were also important about how we, always be under the Lord's protection and do our duties. And today also same concept: surrender, surrender, surrender. So basically, more and more we should understand. We should start, in our own behavior, we should start separating out material versus spiritual. Anything that is happening which is not connected to Krishna is material. And most of the times we are speculating, we are in the platform of the mind, but we think we are on the platform of soul. So we should start identifying these things, because fully surrendering to Krishna means that not using our contaminated consciousness, but completely purifying our consciousness, which means depending wholly and solely on Guru Sadhu Shastra. So that is the key. And then process of surrender, anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. Basically, inch by inch, we have to move closer to Krishna, day by day, hour by hour. More than yesterday, today we should have more feelings towards Krishna, more service mindedness towards Krishna. Every day we should be making progress, and that is possible only when we surrender to Him. Okay. And the other important thing that I said was that everybody needs to have at least one person, one devotee, whom they can take personal guidance from. This is true. And even, I also do it. Everybody does it, because otherwise when we get stuck, we get really stuck. Right? And it'll help. I know also a lot of devotees who don't have this, and fortunately for them, if everything is going fine, then it's good. But if they get stuck, they really get stuck. Right? And they lose track. So it's always safe to have somebody, who's obviously we can't directly get access to Guru, but somebody who is, who's qualified, who is living life like that, not just theoretically, and who is, clearly understands Guru Sadhu Shastra. Having such a devotee in our life is very, very, very important. There are few important summary instructions. Okay, there's nothing else, then we close. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasintu bhavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Okay, I'll disconnect.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.